Hello everyone, in this video we are going to see how to do a CI/CD setup in Azure Data Factory. If you are new to our channel, hit subscribe. Your subscription will motivate us to produce more video in better quality. Before proceeding on this video, I request you to watch two of our videos. In the first video, we have explained how to copy data from API, and for the same data factory, we have showed how to set up Git in the next video. So I request you to watch these two videos. I'll be providing the URL in the description as well. I like to highlight two important points. First one, we will be doing Git setup only in the dev environment, meaning like for dev data factory alone we will be setting up the Git, and for moving the changes to QA, prod or UAD we will be using CI/CD. So prod and UAD doesn't require any separate Git setup. There is a Microsoft documentation which states that we need to stop the trigger before our CI/CD deployment, and we need to restart it after our deployment completes. It is just a recommendation. It's up to you whether you want to do it or not. Anyway, stopping and restarting the trigger we need not to do manually. We can do with a script. At the end of this video, as a second part in the same video itself, I'll be showing how to do that, meaning like what are the scripts you need. So I request you to watch the complete video. I'm going to show the overall pictorial representation of how CI/CD and Git works in Azure Data Factory. First of all, what we will be doing is we will be pushing dev data factory components into Azure repository by configuring Git, and inside our repository we will be having two branches, main and ADF publish. ADF publish branch will contains ARM template which we'll be using for deployment. What we will be doing is we will pick up the ARM template of dev Azure Data Factory from our repository, and we will override certain parameters. Let's say for example, in dev Azure Data Factory you will be using dev SQL database connection string, whereas in QA and prod you will be using the respective database connection string. So similarly we will be having other items such as if you are using blob, then you will override dev storage account credentials with QA account credentials in QA. When you go for prod stage, similarly for prod related connection string you will be replacing. So after replacing those environment specific item, you will be deploying to QA and prod respectively. So each of the environment we will be creating a stage. In DevOps we have something called a stage which is specific to each environment. Okay, now let us see how we can do it. In our earlier video we have created this dev ADF and dev storage account. Let me show the implementation in Azure Data Factory. So here we are copying the data from API into a blob container. So for that we have created two links, one for REST API. So this is our API and we will be getting some response. So for this we have created one link to our API, and for copying the data into blob we have created one more link to the blob. And in the dataset area, if you see, we have created two dataset, one for blob and one for REST API, and we have created one pipeline as well to copy the data from our REST API into blob. So this is the implementation we have done in our last video. And next what we did is we have configured Git for this data factory, and here if you see it is connected. And now I have created one data factory for prod, to which we are going to push our changes from dev to prod. Since we have storage account for our dev environment, I have created a storage account for prod as well. So currently we have one Azure Data Factory and one storage account for each of the environment such as dev and prod. Now let me show the repository where our dev data factory is pushed. So this is the repository to which we are going to set up CI/CD. And let me show one more item. So under data factory you will be having something called as global parameter. If you want to pass some parameter which will vary among the environment, you can make use of global parameter, and this will be available in ARM template as well as override parameter. If you want this global parameter in ARM template, make sure you click on this checkbox. Now let us get back to our repository. Currently our code is in our repository. In order to push these changes to prod, we need release pipeline. We will be defining some steps inside the pipeline on how this ARM template have to be pushed to the prod environment. To run this pipeline, we need agents. Think like agent as a server or some virtual machine. It is actually a virtual machine only on which we will be running our release pipeline task. Most of the organization, what they will do is for their Azure DevOps, they will configure one virtual machine separately for this agent pool so that their pipelines will run on these agent pools. You need at least one agent pool at minimum. In case if you are having too much of load, meaning like multiple pipelines are running parallelly, then in that case you can increase the number of agent pools. Under your organization, this is our organization link, and under organization setting you will find agent pools. So under this you can add a agent pool from here. From the self-hosted option, you can make your laptop or the desktop which you are currently working, you can make that as an agent pool so that your release pipeline will run on your machine. You need to execute certain PowerShell script to add your machine. Later point of time, I will create a separate video on self-hosted agent pool and I will provide the URL in the description. Or you can make use of Azure pipeline, meaning like Azure itself providing free agent pools on which you can run your build pipeline. But this will be not available by default. You need to raise a separate request requesting Azure DevOps to provide a agent pool for you to run. You need to fill out this form for request. I'll be providing the URL in the description. So this is the URL. You need to provide your name and your email address where you signed up for Azure DevOps, and you need to provide the organization URL, and after that you need to select whether you need it for public or private project. In case of public, you need to fill out multiple items. Initially we have created our project as private project, so I have selected private and submitted the request. It will take 3 days to 1 week for approval. After that only this Azure pipeline will be enabled for you. In case if you want it urgent, so add a pool by yourself. It is a simple step. Now let us get back to our project and let me show the files before we proceed to create our pipeline. So under main branch you will be having a data set and pipeline which we have created in our dev ADF, and under publish branch you will be having ARM template. We will be using this branch only for the deployment. ARM template for factory.json. So this file we will be using, and another file is that this parameter file. So these two files are more important. Now let us proceed to create the pipeline. So under pipeline tab, if you select, you will be navigated to build pipeline, but all we need is release pipeline. We don't need build pipeline for our ADF CI/CD setup. So under release, just click on new pipeline, and it will ask you to select the template. Please select empty job, and it will automatically create one stage. Under stage only you will be adding the logic in order to push your changes specific to an environment. Let's take for example, in case if you are having 3 environments such as dev, QA and prod, you need to create 2 stages which is for QA and prod only. You need not to create stage for dev because dev already we have implementation. We are trying to push to QA and prod only. So only for the target environment create stages. Inside each stage, only the environment specific value, those implementation will vary. Rest of the item will remain as it is. Let's say for example, you need to provide SQL connection string for the respective environment in the respective stages. Let me show how to add a stage. So here you have add button, just click on it and click on new stage. So here as usual click on empty job, and here you can name your stage such as QA or prod. Anyway, in this video we are going to see how to move the changes from dev to prod, which means I need only one stage which is for prod, so I don't need this second stage, so I'm going to delete it. Now let us rename our pipeline so that even in case if we have multiple pipeline, we can identify uniquely. Now under artifact we need to connect with our repository. As I told, build pipeline is not required for ADF, so we didn't create it. Instead, we will be directly getting the artifact from the repository itself, since we have ARM template over there. So click on this repository, and under this select our project, and here we need to select our repository. So this is our repository, and we need to select our ADF branch over here since it has a ARM template. So select this, and always we need to pick the latest changes from the branch. So select latest from the default branch and click on add. That's it. And in case if you want to set some variables or some retention policy in DevOps, you can explore from here. Now let us proceed to edit our stage. Just click on our stage so that we will edit our stage name. So this is our prod stage, so I'm just renaming it, and click on this hyperlink where you will be seeing one job, zero task, and here if you see agent job, so just click on it. And this is what we were discussing, the agent pools. Whatever the agent pool we have configured under organization setting, that will appear over here. So I have selected a agent pool, and I'm not going to make any of the changes over here. I will leave it as default, and let's click on this plus icon in order to add a task. So our task is ARM template deployment. So search ARM and just select this. If you want to rename your task, you can do so by changing the display name. Deployment scope, leave it as resource group. And under Azure Resource Manager connection, we need to establish a connection with our Azure subscription so that we can push our changes into Azure ADF. In case if you have already connected the Azure subscription in any of the project pipelines, then it will be available under available Azure service connections. In case not, just click on the available Azure subscription under this drop down. So just select this and click on authorize. This will try to establish a connection with our Azure portal subscription. Sometime it will open a pop-up asking you to sign into your Microsoft account. Sometime it won't. Yeah, it got signed in successfully. Now under subscription, just click on this drop down. It is not showing up, so let me click on refresh. Yeah, it is showing up now. And under action, just leave it as create or update. And under resource group, we need to select our prod resource group. Just select this, and location we need to select the location where your prod resource group is there. And now this is the main area where we will be dealing with our ARM template. So under this template, just click on this three dot. Since we have connected our ADF publish branch under artifact, the artifact items are showing up over here. So under this, we need to navigate to our ARM template. You need to select ARM template for factory.json and click on OK. Next is template parameters, and just click on the three dot, and in the pop-up we need to select the parameter file, which is this one, and click on OK. And next is override template parameter. So these are the replaceable environment specific values. So this is what I'm talking about. Just click on this three dot. It will show a pop-up in the format of key value pair. Whatever the three value you are seeing up is belongs to the dev environment. We need to replace it with prod specific values. Let me show from where this three key value pair came from. Navigate to Azure DevOps and under repositories. If you remember, the parameter JSON, it will have some content. Based upon this content only, the override parameter appears. This content will vary depending upon the link that you have created in the data factory. Suppose in case if you have connected SQL database, then you will get one more key value pair over there in order to replace the SQL connection string. Now let us start replacing prod specific values in the text box. In the first text box, we need to provide prod ADF name under here. So let me copy prod ADF name. So let me copy this. This is our prod data factory name. Yeah, pasted. Now I need prod storage account connection string. In order to get prod storage connection, just go to access keys and click on showcase. Here you will get the prod storage account connection string and replace it over here. And next is REST API base URL. In real time you will have a separate base URL for prod and non-prod, but I don't have any separate base URL for prod. It is same for both dev and prod. I'm going to use the same URL, so click on OK. Deployment mode as incremental and leave rest of the value as it is. And that's it. We are done. We are good to save and click on create release in order to do a manual release. Let me click on this create release. So here it is showing we are going to deploy for prod stage and click on continue. Whatever we have done is a manual trigger. We need to enable continuous deployment in order to automate it, which means as soon as we make some new changes in the dev Azure Data Factory, our DevOps release pipeline should automatically trigger and it should push the changes into the prod Azure Data Factory. Let us wait till its completion. Once it ran fine, then I will show how to enable it. It is queued. It will take some time. Let me show prod ADF. It is completely blank. Once it got completed, we will see the implementation of prod ADF over there. Yeah, it is showing green. If you have created one more stage, one more box will appear over here showing the status. Now let us jump to our Azure Data Factory in order to check everything happened properly or not. Let me refresh this. So under pipelines, yeah, we are able to see the implementation. Under our linked service also we are able to see. Now let us see how to enable continuous deployment. Click on edit button. In order to enable continuous deployment, just click on this. So this is the trigger prod. So here you have an option to enable continuous deployment. Just enable it. And here we need to add branch based filter as well. For ADF publish branch we need to do. In case if you are not doing, it will trigger for master branch as well. Let me show how this will cause some trouble if we didn't add the branch filter. Close it. Let's save this and click on OK. And here we can set pre-deployment conditions such as approval and all. So here you have an option to enable approval process. You can add your manager or TL email ID over here so that after the approval only it will get deployed to prod. Here you can add your approver email ID. I'm just adding my email ID as approver. I do not want this approval process in my release pipeline, so I am disabling it back. Let me close this. Now I'm not going to click on create new release because we are not going to do it manually. Let us check how this automated deployment works. In order to check this, we need to push some latest changes into dev data factory. I'm not going to make much changes, so instead I'm going to just add one wait activity. So let me drag and drop, and I want this wait activity to run after copy activity, and here I'm setting the wait time as 1 second. So let me save and publish. Now this will push an artifact into our repository, and that artifact will trigger our continuous delivery pipeline. Let us check the progress. Yeah, ARM template also got generated. Now let us jump to our DevOps in order to check whether our continuous deployment trigger got worked. So let me go to repository first, and here if you see the latest changes are available here in the repository. Now let us jump to our pipeline and let me click on release pipeline. Yeah, see, it got automatically triggered and it is running. But if you see here, we found one more release got failed, which is for main branch. As I told, we should have added that particular branch filter over there. Anyway, ADF publish branch had created one more release which is running successfully as of now. Yes, it got completed now. Now let us check back in our data factory whether whatever the latest changes is available here. Let me refresh the prod data factory. Let us open our pipeline. Yeah, the wait activity got pushed from dev to prod environment. Now let us add the branch filter as well. And under here you will have branch filter. Let us select ADF publish. Yeah, that's it. We are done. Now let us make one more changes and we will try to push the changes over here. I'll be fast forwarding the content since we are going to do the same thing again. Yeah, let me publish this. Now let us check in pipeline to see how this filter actually worked. Yes, now we see only one release, which is for ADF publish branch. In general, CI/CD setup for Azure Data Factory ends here. As I said earlier, Microsoft recommends to stop the trigger before the deployment and enable it back after deployment. We can do this with a simple script activity. It won't take much time. Let me show how to do. Our ADF doesn't have any trigger as of now. Let me add one trigger so that we can see what is happening. So just click on this add a trigger, and from this drop down click on new, and here we have a variety of trigger. I'm going to pick up schedule trigger, and here recurrence I'm going to select as days, and here I'm going to specify as 1 day, and that's it. And if this checkbox is turned on, the trigger will start instantaneously after we click on OK. Now let's click on OK. And here click on save. Now let us save and publish these changes to our repository. Just click on publish and click on OK. I will be providing this Microsoft documentation link in the video description. This has complete scripts whatever we required. So first of all, if you scroll down, you will have two script argument, one for stopping the trigger and one for starting the trigger. And we will be passing the script argument to a common PowerShell script given below. If you scroll down, we will have a PowerShell script over here. We need to copy this complete PowerShell script. In order to copy it, just click on this copy button. Now let us move to our Azure DevOps. And under our repository, please make sure you are in main branch. The PowerShell script which we have copied, we need to add under main branch. I repeat, main branch, not in ADF publish branch. So under main branch, we need to add the file. In order to add a file, click on this three dot and here new file. Under this, we need to provide a file name to our PowerShell script. Please make sure that your file name should end with .ps1 to say this is a PowerShell script. So once done, just click on create, and here we need to paste the content which we have copied from our documentation. So just go to our documentation, and this is the part which I am talking about. So this script we need to paste it over here and commit it, and that's it. Just remember that we have added the script in main branch. Now let us move to our release pipeline, and under our release pipeline, so this is the pipeline which we have created. Now click on edit. So if you remember, we have added the ADF publish branch as an artifact. We didn't add our main branch as an artifact over here. So if you click on the existing artifact on the drop down, if you see here, it is showing ADF publish branch. So this is what we have selected. Now we need to add our main branch as well. In order to add a main branch, click on add and navigate to the repository. From the drop down, select the project and select the repository, and default branch select as main branch so that we can consume the PowerShell script which we have added. And here leave rest of the item as it is. Just we need to change the source alias. Here we need to provide the name which will be our artifact name. I am going to provide as main branch source. Click on add. Now we have the artifact of both ADF publish and main branch as well. So if you click on the ADF publish artifact, it will shows the alias name. So this is the name we have given for our ADF publish branch, and this is the name we have given for our main branch. Now let us proceed to our stage. So just click on this, and here we need to add one pre-deployment task and one post-deployment task. Click on this plus sign, and here search for PowerShell. We need to add Azure PowerShell task. Just select this and click on add. We need to execute this pre-deployment script before ARM template deployment task. In order to execute this PowerShell script before ARM template, just drag and drop. Yeah, now our PowerShell script will execute before ARM template deployment. So here you can change the display name. I am naming it as trigger stopper, and under Azure subscription drop down, select the existing service connection which we have already created, and after this leave the script type as script file path, and here in the script path we need to select our PowerShell script which we have created. So in order to add it, just click on this, and here if you see we find two artifacts. One is for ADF publish and the other is for main branch. So under this you will find the PowerShell script which we have created. Just select this and click on OK. Yeah, done. Now under script argument, we need to pass the argument in order to stop the trigger. I have copy pasted the script arguments from the documentation. Let me show the documentation as well. So from the documentation, I just copy pasted this part, and here I made some modification. So we need to provide ARM template location over here. So in order to get this, what we need to do is we need our repository name first. So you will find the repository name over here. Just copy this, and followed by we need to provide the exact path to our ARM template. So where we are having our ARM template, which is under ADF publish branch only, right? So let us navigate to our ADF publish branch. Under this, just expand the folder, and here we have our ARM template JSON, right? So this path we need to provide. In order to get the relative path, just copy this particular part from here. So this is our relative path which we need to paste it over here. We have copy pasted the repository name first, followed by the relative path of our ARM template JSON file. After that, we need to provide our resource group name over here and our data factory name under here. The only difference between the arguments to stop the trigger and the argument to start the trigger is this pre-deployment. Pre-deployment value will be true for stopping the trigger and false for starting the trigger. The first script arguments is for stopping the trigger, and the next one is for starting the trigger. Let me copy the arguments for stopping the trigger first, and now let us move to our DevOps. Just minimize this, and under script argument we need to pass this, and if you scroll down here it will ask you to select the PowerShell version. Select for the latest version and click on save. That's it. The script to stop the trigger is ready. Let us validate this first. After this we will add task in order to start the trigger back again over here. So let us start validating by creating a manual release first. So just click on release and click on create. Now let us wait for this pipeline to complete. Post that we will start our validation. The pipeline ran fine. Now let us jump to our data factory in order to validate. So let me refresh and navigate to trigger, and under trigger if you just select the trigger, under below which you could find the status of the trigger is stopped. This is stopped by our DevOps task. Now let us add a task in order to start back the trigger. Now in our DevOps, just edit the pipeline, and under here just navigate to our task. Just click to add a task and search for PowerShell. So we are almost going to do the same step under PowerShell. So you can provide a display name, and from the drop down just select our service connection, and in the script path we need to select our PowerShell script So the same one, just click on OK. And in the script argument, we need to copy paste the script argument for starting the trigger. And here you could find the last two parameters are the only difference from the other one. So let me copy this and let me paste it in script arguments. And we need to select the PowerShell version. So I'm going with the latest one and let us run it. Click on create a release and click on create. The pipeline is running now. Pipeline ran fine without any issues. Now let us verify in Azure Data Factory. Let me refresh, and under the triggers, let's scroll down, and here we could find the status as started. We have successfully stopped the trigger before deployment and started it back after the deployment. And that's it on this video. Thank you for watching. I started publishing courses in Udemy as well. As of now, I have posted only one course, which is a practice test for AZure 204 certification. Do expect more courses in upcoming days. I request you to subscribe my channel. I will be providing the URL for LinkedIn and Udemy in the video description. Thank you. Bye-bye.